I never thought a casual joke could spiral into the kind of chaos that makes your chest pound and your mind race. But there she was, standing in our living room with that infuriatingly confident smile, tossing out a comment about another man as if it were nothing, as if the air between us could absorb such betrayal without leaving a mark. I froze for a second, pretending I hadn't caught it, pretending that her words had landed somewhere far from my mind. But deep down, every instinct screamed that this wasn't harmless, this wasn't funny, and it certainly wasn't okay. My husband, who I thought would remain calm, who I thought might brush it off as a joke, stepped forward slowly, each step deliberate, his eyes narrowing in a way I had never seen before. My heart jumped into my throat because that look wasn't casual. It was dangerous, it was calculating, and it promised consequences she hadn't prepared for. The room seemed to shrink, the hum of the lights above fading into the tense silence that wrapped around us like a vice, and I could see the moment the confident smile she wore like armor began to crack. She tried to cover it with laughter, the kind that trembles even when the face pretends it doesn't, but my husband's gaze didn't falter. "Really?" he said, his voice low, calm, but edged with something so sharp that it sliced through the casual atmosphere she had tried to build. "A joke." The single word hit harder than a shout. Every nerve in her body stiffened, and I could almost hear the gears turning in her head, calculating, hoping, praying that maybe, just maybe, she could talk her way out before the room descended into chaos. But it was too late. The first domino had fallen, and the rest would follow. She laughed nervously, a sound that had lost its innocence, as if she were trying to convince herself she wasn't trapped, as if her words alone could rewrite the truth. I could see her hands clenching slightly, her nails digging into her palms, betraying the calm she tried to project. My husband took another step closer, and in that moment, time seemed to split. The air thickened, and the tension became almost tangible, wrapping around us like a storm that no one could escape. "Do you think I'm blind?" he asked quietly, almost whispering, but the weight of the words made the room shiver. Gasps rippled through the small gathering we had invited, eyes widening, heads turning. Friends we thought were neutral were suddenly participants in this quiet unraveling, witnesses to the cracks that were forming in her carefully curated image. She swallowed, a slight hitch in her throat that she tried to disguise, but it was useless. I had never seen her like this, stripped of the armor she had worn for months, maybe years, every secret she had buried now threatening to explode like a volcano. And then, like the slow, inevitable peel of a curtain, the first truth spilled out. Her voice, barely above a whisper, trembled. I didn't mean." She stopped. She couldn't finish. She wanted to, desperately, frantically, but the weight of every eye locked on her, the knowledge that we all knew now, choked the words before they could leave her lips. My husband's step forward wasn't aggressive, but it was enough. Enough to make her realize that the lies she had counted on to protect her were crumbling. Enough to make her understand that nothing could shield her from the truth now. The room was silent for a heartbeat, but in that silence, the suspense wrapped tighter around our hearts, holding us hostage. Then, almost as if the walls themselves wanted to confirm what we suspected, her phone buzzed on the counter, a message preview glowing like a neon sign in the dim light. She flinched at it, her eyes darting to it like a cornered animal, hoping it could somehow hide her secrets again. But my husband had already noticed. With a slow, deliberate motion, he picked it up, swiped, and revealed the hidden messages, the plan she had tried to bury under layers of excuses and fabricated stories. Every message was a dagger, each one confirming the suspicion that had been gnawing at the edges of my mind. And suddenly, what had seemed like a harmless joke was a hurricane that laid bare the life she thought she could hide. Whispers began, sharp, incredulous murmurs filling the room. She tried to speak, to explain, to twist the narrative back into something palatable, but the proof was relentless. Screenshots, timestamps, texts she had deleted, none of it could save her now. Every lie she had whispered in shadows, every smile she had flashed to cover guilt, every casual excuse she had offered, obliterated in seconds. The suspense didn't end there. My husband's voice, calm and unwavering, cut through the chaos. "You thought you could joke about another man in front of everyone and I wouldn't notice?" Each word hit harder than the last, and her gaze faltered. She tried to retreat behind excuses, behind laughter, behind a mask that no longer fit. But the room had transformed. Every single person in that space, friends, family, colleagues, was suddenly a jury, and she was the defendant in a trial she hadn't even known was happening. Her confident armor shattered completely when he continued, each word a hammer against the walls of her deceit. "All of this, everything you tried to hide, Everything you thought was invisible, it's all here. And now, so is everyone else. Her breath hitched, eyes darting, heart racing. She realized that the trust she had dismantled over time was now visible, tangible, undeniable. The room seemed to tilt, reality itself bending to accommodate the explosive truth she could no longer control. And just when it seemed like she might collapse, break into tears, or beg for mercy, the final blow landed. My husband, with a slight motion, displayed the last piece of proof, something she hadn't even considered could be found. The look in her eyes shifted from panic to horror, from disbelief to the realization that the stage she had built for her lies had become a cage, and there was no escape. Every secret she swore was hidden had erupted into the open like a volcano no one could stop. Gasps filled the room again, louder this time, and a heavy, suffocating silence fell over the crowd as all eyes locked onto her in disbelief, in shock, in astonishment. She wanted to run, to flee, to vanish into thin air, but the room itself seemed to press against her, each witness a weight she could not shrug off. My husband stepped back, letting the gravity of what had just happened sink in, letting the silence linger, letting the suspense hang thick in the air, a living, breathing entity that enveloped her completely. And there she stood, once proud, once untouchable, now exposed, every lie, every secret, every betrayal laid bare for the world to see. In that moment, I realized something profound. A single step, a calm gaze, and the truth, no matter how deeply buried, could erupt in ways you never imagined. The tension, the suspense, the gasps, the silence, they weren't just reactions. They were the culmination of every hidden truth finally breaking free, and we were all witnesses to the fallout. Her confident smile was gone, replaced by something raw, vulnerable, broken. And as the room slowly began to breathe again, she understood that nothing could ever erase what had just happened, that the power of truth, once unleashed, was unstoppable, and that every secret she thought was safe would haunt her forever.